Aloha and welcome to Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. We're broadcasting live from the studios of ThinkTech Hawaii in downtown Honolulu in the Pioneer Plaza. We're also live on livestream.com in the ThinkTech Hawaii channel. ThinkTech Hawaii has a website that you can go to and subscribe to newsletters advising you of all the different shows that they have during the week. And you can watch our show every Thursday at 2 o'clock right here. The theme of Business in Hawaii is positive stories about business in Hawaii and their owners. You know, we're kind of tired of hearing all the negativity, so we're looking for those positive stories, and we've got two here today. We've got Bernice Parsons, who's the president and co-founder of Vertaccount Hawaii, and we also have Michael Hernandez-Soria, that is the general manager of the Hawaiian Cool Water Company. So we'll be talking with Bernice and Mike here today and find out more about them. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Bernice, why don't we start with you? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I actually grew up in the Philippines and moved to Honolulu about 13 years ago. And I was always an entrepreneur. I lived in the Philippines my adult life and went to college there as well. And straight out of college, formed my own company. It was an internet startup in the late 90s.
Right out of college, you
Right
got
out of
started,
college,
huh?
yeah. I knew I wasn't going to go the corporate route. And so I started a business, and fortunately, we had the good luck of being acquired fairly early in our business, maybe 2 years old. We were a very early city guide, sort of like a precursor to Yelp and City Search back in the late 90s. And an American company came to the Philippines, and they were looking to consolidate lifestyle and city guide businesses. So we were lucky to be acquired. And that was my ticket to coming to Hawaii. I basically had a choice on where to go and
why. Good timing then.
Good timing, yeah.
Very good. So you got your company sold, you got a little bit of capital, and that's what triggered you. Why did you come to Hawaii? What was here that motivated you?
Well, quality of life, really. And also, I actually had learned how to surf in the Philippines. I was one of the first, few women who were out in the water there, and I was always a water baby. So the appeal of just having access to clean ocean, 15 minutes from your house was just too good to pass up. So when the opportunity came.
Certainly the place for it.
Right.
Very good. Well, it's great to have you in Hawaii.
Thank you.
And Mike, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I went to Duke. I was a biomedical and electrical engineering major.
Duke University?
Duke University.
Wow.
I did not play basketball. No. But was really interested in medical technology. Wound up getting a job at GE Med Systems. And was stuck in the basement with a bunch of other engineers and decided that maybe engineering wasn't really, I wanted to be outside, I wanted to have a window,
sure.
Something like that. And so started looking into going into business and got a job in consulting and eventually went to Harvard Business School.
Wow, Duke and Harvard, that's a hell of a combination.
It was an expensive education, but there's a lot of good schools out there. And so wound up working in investment banking at Merrill Lynch and working for some wealthy families, helping them with investments, but was also really focused on healthcare related things.
Was this in Hawaii or was this on the mainland?
No, this was all on the mainland in various different cities. I moved around a lot, anywhere from Dallas to Boston to San Francisco. And then I eventually went off on my own, raised some venture capital money to buy a medical publishing business in Los Angeles. And that went pretty well, and I wound up leaving the company to move to Hawaii to start this business, and that business recently sold for about $150 million, I believe.
So you're a rich guy.
Well, the venture capitalists did very well on that, let's put it that way. And so I was really passionate about the water business, and really was more and more, my wife was saying, you're avoiding plastic and all these things, like you don't want to put your food in plastic, you don't want to drink out of plastic bottles. I was very passionate about it and figured out a way to start a business around that and avoiding drinking plastic in my own life and helping other people do the same.
Very good. So it's back somewhat into the health.
Yeah,
Industry,
into the
yeah,
healthcare
a
world,
little
yeah.
bit,
And we
so.
have a lot of hospitals as customers. It's amazing how much they're pushing to get away from using the plastic jugs and understanding what an impact it can have for their facilities.
Absolutely. Well, particularly in, I would assume, at least what I've heard, is that sometimes the heat causes some kind of a chemical transfer to take place.
There's some research supporting that, yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very interesting. So how did you and Bernice come together?
So Bernice and I are both members of Entrepreneurs Organization.
Right, EO.
And then maybe you want to tell the rest of the story.
Okay, I think I was referred to you, right? Somebody, we had a mutual friend.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Might have been a mutual employee, actually,
Oh, yeah, that's
at some
right.
point, yes. So I was referred to Mike, and I'd heard that Mike was looking for a bookkeeper. And my business today is Vertaccount, which is, we provide outsourced accounting and bookkeeping services to small and growing businesses. And so I'd been introduced to Mike, and we chatted, and he had told me what their requirements were, and we were able to help him. And basically, they needed bookkeeping, and their company was growing, very quickly, and they wanted to focus on that growth and not have to deal with back office work that was, while important, was, they didn't want to be distracted from what the real focus was, which is to grow the business.
Well, I would imagine, Mike, your passion was more into the delivery of the product than it was in the number crunching and the bookkeeping part.
Yeah, well, and it's, especially when you have a rapidly growing business like we have, the scaling that side of the business up, getting hiring that office staff and bringing them on board and so forth, being able to outsource that really helps a lot.
Well, it frees up your time to do those other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is excellent. And so you guys have been working together now for how long?
Maybe coming up to 2 years. Or,
Maybe, yeah.
Over a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've seen Mike's growth, and it's really neat to be a part of that, because I do feel that while we are a vendor to him, I also feel very strongly that it's actually a partnership, because accounting and bookkeeping, unlike other business services, is very collaborative, and you really need to work very closely with your clients to get to the meaningful reporting.
Takes a lot of communication.
A lot of communication, a lot of really working together to identify what is it we need to track, what's important to us, and then identifying a workflow that works with their operations.
Well, and plus the end product is different for every company.
Right.
I would imagine that, assuming that there's a dashboard or some sort out there, some specific matrices that you want to follow and track, you need to be able to identify what that is and help that back office come up with those numbers that become meaningful to you.
Yeah, I mean, having outsourced the accounting and the bookkeeping part of the business, it allows us to sort of have consistent key performance metrics, those KPIs that help you manage and create good incentives for your employees and help them understand what's really going on with the business. So that, I mean, if you have good employees like we do, they want to help the business grow too, right? And helping them understand how they're doing from a performance point of view really helps everybody come together and do a good job.
Exactly, and that linkage is very important to make sure everybody's on the same page, pulling in the same direction. That's right. And that's where the data comes in. And sometimes I explain to people that it's not so much the bookkeeping and the accounting, it's all part of the data process. You've got to capture that data, and you have to present it in a format that's useful to that business owner. And each business owner is a little different. They each look at, and metrics was the word I was trying to find, but yes, they all have different metrics that they have to monitor, to ensure their success. And they have to make sure that everybody in the company is kind of aware of what those are and working in that same direction. So in your company, Mike, I mean, do you share a lot of this information with your employees? Are they kind of all working together? And
Well, it's interesting. So before we had Vertaccount, it was very hard for us to do that because getting the numbers was difficult.
Taking time, yeah.
But then once you sort of, onboarding doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly, and I was going to say neither does establishing the metrics.
Right.
I mean, there's some low-hanging fruit, pretty easy to figure out right away, but getting into the real, deep stuff takes time to develop, and we're actually working on that as well, which we can talk about later.
Yeah.
And what becomes important, though, is also the trends. And so you've got to monitor the trends and see how you're going from 1 month to the next, or 1 quarter, or 1 year.
Right.
And see if there's improvement or not, and if there's not, then you fix it.
Right. Yep.
So what are, in your business, Mike, what are some of the key metrics that you try to monitor? I mean, are they all accounting related, or are there other things?
Well, no, I mean, it's operational in a way in terms of what we're sharing with our employees, right? We're looking at how many new installations, so how we're doing on the sales side, and then what type of installations we're doing, but then also what are the costs of those, and helping the operations guys understand how those costs are impacting the business and how efficiently they're working.
Right.
Kind of all fits together.
Do you use benchmarks or budgets or something along those lines, some standards that you try to hit?
I think we're always trying to get better. That's the main thing. So whatever we've done, we're always trying to improve off of that. We try not to look at, I would say we're trying to set a standard and be the leaders in the industry, and so therefore we don't feel like there's really any relevant comps for us to follow.
Well, other than your own.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and once you set some of those benchmarks from your own, and you're going to have some installations that go a little bit better than others, and then you try to figure out why one's doing well and one wasn't so well. And so it becomes almost an internal benchmark that you use.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all part of the science of managing a company.
Right.
Or the art.
Yeah, or the art.
Or the art.
Yeah. Well, hopefully with what Vertaccount provides, it takes some of the artfulness out and try to quantify it with a little bit harder numbers, that it becomes maybe not completely, but a little bit closer to a science.
Right. Well, what we're really doing is we're providing the heavy lifting. We're the team. So with us, I mean, Mike, it's not just working with one individual. We actually assign a team to Hawaiian Cool Water, and that team is working hard to get him his reports on time, and working with him and his wife Alix to actually develop, decide on certain systems, what systems to use. So there's this backing, there's a deep bench, and that's something a lot of smaller or growing businesses don't have access to, or don't have easy access to.
No, as a matter of fact, most small businesses start out with a little bit of a lack of infrastructure to provide this type of information.
Right.
And outsourcing, both accounting, bookkeeping, and other
Others,
types
yeah.
of support services is a natural way for companies to get started and grow.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you outsource other parts of your business, Mike, or for like payroll or HR or IT or anything like that?
No, I mean, we pretty much handle, I wish we could outsource more of it, to be honest, but I mean, we use ADP for payroll and those sorts of things, like
Sure.
I think
Well,
like
that's
a normal
outsourced.
business.
Sure.
Yeah, ADP is a good outsourcing, source or vendor, but it takes, it might have a little bit of a cost element to it, but it also allows you to have that focus and spend the time that, number one, you enjoy, but number two, what you make your money at.
Right.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, maybe we can dive into a little bit more of the details of your businesses, what you're willing to disclose anyways. And then we'll go, and find out how this all works. But this is Reg Baker. You're watching Business in Hawaii, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on ThinkTech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
Welcome back. This is Reg Baker, Business in Hawaii, and I'm visiting with Bernice Parsons, who is the co-founder and president of Vertaccount, and with Michael Hernandez-Soria, who is the general manager for Hawaiian Cool Water. We're going to get into this segment a little bit more detail into the individual businesses, and see how they've operated and maybe discuss a little bit what challenges they had, if any, and what they did to get around them. So Bernice, again, starting with you.
All right.
Tell us a little bit more about the details of Vertaccount and how that company operates.
Okay, so we have an office here in Honolulu where we are staffed with 3 full-time people. And our back office is actually in Manila in the Philippines. And over there we have 70 employees.
Wow, 7-0.
70, right. And primarily supporting Hawaii businesses, although we've expanded. About a year and a half ago, we opened an office in Sydney, in Australia.
Wow.
And we also have we've been developing our affiliates. So we have an affiliate in San Diego and one in New York as well. So.
Very good. Now, I'm just curious, is the Australian accounting, bookkeeping any different than what it is in the United States?
Slightly. Well, in the US we use GAAP. In Australia it's IFRS, and they're called chartered accountants and not CPAs. So some differences, but
Pretty much, there's some
similar enough.
consistency.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay, well, very good.
Yeah.
So how does it work? You've got 3 people here, and then you've got the real engine, I guess, back
Right.
in Manila. How does it work? How do you get information back and forth? And
Yeah, well, communications is key. So the 3 of us here are primarily customer facing, and we handle the onboarding, the business development, and the client servicing. Once we bring on a client, part of what we're doing is really introducing that infrastructure that you had mentioned and a workflow so that we can actually work on their source documents for accounting or bookkeeping. And most of the time, those are scanned over to our team, and we're able to retrieve them from some kind of cloud platform. We use many. We're pretty software agnostic. So we are able to pick up the data from essentially online. And
so the client will have somebody that scans the information into this cloud environment.
Right.
And then you capture this, and
Yes.
then what do you do?
And then we're able to refer to that document and actually input the accounting information into a system like QuickBooks Online, Xero, Mass90, whatever the software might be. So at its most basic, that's what we're doing.
So you use a lot of different software packages in.
We do, yes.
Very
yes.
good. So that opens up a lot of other possibilities for other clients to come in and get engaged.
Right. It's one of the I think, differentiators of our service. And again, it goes back to having that deep bench of 70 accounting personnel, because we're able to work with different systems and invest the time to learn them and to train on them. And that's very difficult to do if you just have one resource or a part-time person.
Now, of these 70 people that you've got in Manila, what is their background? How well trained are they?
Well, they're all they all complete 4-year degrees in accounting, and depending on their position within the company, they might have 1 year of experience, or they may have 3 to 5 or 5 to 10, depending on So very
different levels of
experience for the different roles that they play.
And then I would imagine someone would be supervising the less experienced, so that you've
Yes.
got that second set of eyes watching
Or
things.
third, yes, yeah. So we're organized by teams, and then starting with a senior accounting manager, and then different levels of associates working under him or her.
Just like any other accounting
Yeah,
department.
very, very traditional in that sense.
Very good.
Yes.
And Mike, you've been using this service for a while, but before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Hawaiian Cool Water and what you guys do?
Sure. We, the most basic explanation for what we do is filtered water coolers. So instead of getting 5-gallon jug delivery, 85% of offices get a water service of some kind. And they'll get,
Wow,
most of them
that's
will
a
get.
high percentage.
It's a very high percentage. And most of them get a 5-gallon jug delivery.
Now, these are the old-fashioned ones that somebody's got to actually pick up and put into the dispenser.
Right.
Which
Break
would be,
your back.
Yeah, relatively easy for you, and maybe not so easy for somebody
Right.
who doesn't quite have the strength or the size to lift one of those jugs. They weigh over 40 pounds. I think they're about 44 pounds a piece. So you're talking about a pretty heavy
not
lift.
the easiest shape to pick up.
Yeah, I mean that's about the max size for checked luggage, right? So you got to lift that up and put it onto a water cooler. It's not that easy, but there's a number of disadvantages to that service. There's the inconvenience of lifting the jugs. There's, of course, the cost involved. The fact that it comes in plastic, I think, is a big thing, especially recently, that people realize that it's made, those 5-gallon jugs, for the most part, are made out of BPA plastic. It's not a BPA-free material.
What is a BBA?
BPA.
Okay, what is that?
It's,
You can pronounce it.
you can look up the pronunciation of it. I will not do a good job of saying it. But it's a chemical that's used to harden plastic and to make it more durable. And there's a lot of research. It leaches, and there's a lot of people that are trying to go BPA free.
Which means it kind of dissolves into the water.
I will tell you this, that you cannot buy a baby product today in the United States that uses BPA.
And that's why I know what BPA is, because I'm a mom.
The market has decided that they
don't
want to
want
be BPA free,
Not worth
and yet the 5-gallon jugs they continue to have BPA in them, and it's not really that well advertised. But
I get the sense you've got a solution to this.
well, so that's the thing. I think people started to realize that there were problems with plastic, that it was inconvenient, and they were looking for something better. And the trend started of moving the bottled water plant from the plant to putting it inside of the water cooler. So having filters, having a reverse osmosis system if you want it, but yet having hot and cold pure water coming out of a dispenser at work. People want that. That they still want, right? So we come in, we lease these to businesses, we provide the filter change service, we maintain the water cooler. Nobody really wanted to deal with that, right? They didn't want another piece of equipment to change the filters on and that kind of thing. So our service, and it's priced to be competitive with bottled water, and most businesses we save money for, we plumb it in, we run the line for them, and then we come and we do the filter change service
When
for
you
them.
say you run the line, you come right from the water source right into the filter.
So we have a whole team of installers, and they'll come in and they'll find the water source, whether it be down the hall or somewhere else in your office, and run that water line to the water cooler.
So if I wanted something like this in my personal office, can you run a line from the kitchen all the way into my office?
Well, we could, yeah. We don't do residential, so that's one thing that I wanted. We are commercial only, and we also do we do a lot of marine work. So we'll work on commercial vessels and provide drinking water on those. We do Young Brothers, we do their fleet, and a couple of other customers around the harbor.
Wow.
And then we've also expanded into commercial systems. So we put in a system at the Modern Hotel for their steamers, so that their rice and everything that they're steaming is also tasting good and being made with pure water. So more and more you're seeing restaurants and hotels investing in purification equipment for food production.
Very
And we're
interesting.
doing that too.
I remember one of the interesting things you told me when we were first talking about your business was, number one, the truck deliveries, how they would block the loading zones. So property managers or building operators would...
They get grumpy.
Yeah, because it's taking up all this precious space, and then the walls would get banged up, right? And it's the things you don't think about when it comes to water.
I was
right?
sitting in an airport coming back from a conference, and I happened to meet one of the sort of regional managers for one of the large bottled water companies on the mainland. And he told me a story about the Empire State Building and how their trucks, they always have a truck in the loading zone at the Empire State Building. There is never a time that they are not delivering. By the time that truck is empty, the next truck comes, and they have somebody going up and down the elevators all day long delivering water. And if you think about the wear and tear on the building, on the elevators, and that it's taking up space in the loading dock, probably not every commercial building is to that extreme, but it highlights how much the wear and tear, the space in the loading dock, everything else, other deliveries are not getting made because bottled water is there.
Very good. No, and that's, I would imagine, the Empire State Building being an older building, maybe it doesn't have the infrastructure within the building to have a filter system, or can you work with any kind of system?
We could probably work in the Empire State Building. I have not actually been in there yet, but...
Well, let me make a few calls and
all
we'll
right.
see what we can do. Good. Very interesting. Well, where do you see your opportunity? I mean, is it going to be in Hawaii? Have you got a lot of market share here, or you see some growth?
We are by far and away the largest in Hawaii at what we do, and we're probably 10 times the size of our next largest competitor. So we've really taken a leadership position in the market. There's always going to be competition, and I think some of our competitors actually do a good job. Not all of them, unfortunately, but some do, and we hope that everybody does a good job because it gives our industry a better name.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
Anytime somebody really messes up, that creates a bad name for our industry, and it actually makes it harder for us. So we sort of welcome people to come into the industry. We did expand to California last year. We bought a drinking fountain distributor, and they started in 1927.
Wow.
They claim to start in 1898. The first evidence that I can
A
find
piece
is
of
from
paper,
piece of
okay.
paper that I could find is from 1927. But they were a drinking fountain manufacturer and distributor in downtown Los Angeles. And we had the opportunity to buy the warehouse and buy that business. And so we're using that. It's really helping us decrease our freight costs to Hawaii and giving us a little more sales and scale and scope. And so now we're also providing drinking fountains here in Hawaii. We won a bid for drinking fountains at UH Hilo and provided them with drinking fountains for one of the dorms.
Very cool.
So we're doing more and more and really expanding the business.
Yeah.
quite a
Now,
lot.
Bernice, it must be really fun to have a client like Mike. I mean, the way it's growing and getting big, I mean, and you can scale up and keep up with him with
Right.
the background that you've got, right?
Right, and the fact that he's in 2 locations in 2 different cities makes the model, having this outsourced team or virtual accounting team can basically serve them wherever they are. And as they grow, as they add locations or go into different business lines, we can add the support that they need, on a scalable basis.
Sure.
So, we're not having to, he's not having to hire 2 full-time people if it really is just the job of one or.
Right,
Yeah.
and as that company grows, you grow.
We
and-
grow with
and,
them.
if you had 100 companies like this, I mean, phew, you can be really busy.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, so, we're not geographically limited, so that's one of the things that we've been, for Vertaccount that we've been exploring is looking at these affiliate models or partnerships, and we're still trying to figure out how exactly we're going to do that and really grow, but we know that we can already serve other markets pretty consistently, so,
Right, well, and you mentioned that you're already in California,
yes.
so, and you do see that as a growth area for you?
I see every state as a growth area. It's actually, honestly, it's really much more organic. It's where we meet the right partners. So if I happen to be in a conference and I meet, say an outsourced CFO firm or a CPA firm who understands what we're doing and who sees the value of what we bring and what that partnership can do, then I'll say, well, I guess we're in Colorado now. So it's
So
really,
you kind of follow the opportunity.
we follow
in
the
a sense.
opportunities, yes.
Yeah, very good. Well, and Mike, I guess, you've been able to work well with Vertaccount, and do you use her in California as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it allows us to really make that expansion seamlessly, and for them to understand how we want to run our business, how we want to run our books, but yet expand quickly.
Very
Yeah.
good. Well, we're going to take another break for just a minute. We'll be back. This is Reg Baker, Business in Hawaii. We're talking with Bernice and with Mike, and we're going to be back in about a minute to go into a little bit more details about what the future holds for both of these companies.
Aloha, my name is Justina Spiritu, and I'm the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and you can catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. What do we talk about, Matt?
So on Hawaii Farmers Series, we're going to be bringing on the farmers and also supporter of farmers, including restaurants, caterers, as well as government supporters and nonprofits to hear their background stories and understanding our local ag community just a little bit better.
Yeah, essentially, there's a lot more that goes into farming and the local food community beyond just producing the food. And we want to feature and get the background story on all these folks and see how we all work together as a community. So join us every Thursday. Aloha.
Yeah.
Welcome back. This is Reg Baker, Business in Hawaii, and I'm here with Bernice Parsons, who's the president and co-founder of Vertaccount, and Michael Hernandez-Soria. Did I say it right that time?
Closer. Getting
Okay,
better every time. It's all
getting
about
warm.
incremental improvement.
Well, you can call me Beaker.
You get that too?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. But general manager of the Hawaiian Cool Water Company. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about the future and where we're headed and how we're planning on getting there. But let me ask you first, when you started your business, Bernice, was there any challenges that you had to encounter in order to get it up and running and get it successful?
Of course, I don't think there's any business that doesn't come without challenges. For us, I mean, it's the fact that my team is over 3,000 miles away, so they're also in a different time zone. So figuring out how we were going to deliver our service in a consistent and reliable basis really is actually a lot more complicated than it sounds. We really had to put in systems and processes and policies and we're working with people who are hiring every day, and so how do you get 70 people to do, they're not machines, right? So how do you get everybody to walk the same path? And so that was a challenge, is the time zone, the distance. Early days in Hawaii when I was probably one of the first companies doing offshore work here. Definitely there was a little bit of skepticism back then. That might have been 9 years ago, I think. And but it's changed. The perception has changed. I think most businesses now, when they hear the word outsourcing or offshoring, look at it as more of an alternative. Like, is it a fit for me versus, wow, what a crazy idea.
Well, and I think the acceptance of having data and having services provided in a virtual or in a cloud environment has helped get a better comfort with that outsourcing concept.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, I mean, those tools, whether it was the cloud-based software or VoIP phones, and just the cost of software going down. I mean, all of that was intrinsic to making the model work.
Right. So that was one of your challenges, is to get the acceptance, not only to coordinate all the efforts of your people, which they have an old cliche that says that, that one of the most complicated things you'll ever do in business is hire your first employee. That's when things really start getting complicated, because now all of a sudden you have to look out not only for yourself, but what other people are doing too, and then that just starts to grow and multiply as you add more and more employees.
Right.
So you had the coordination aspect, you had the acceptance aspect, and you were able to get around both of those.
Right. And the other one that is sort of less obvious and subtle is actually sort of the cultural differences, because even if my team, speaks English and good business writing in English, there's still cultural differences, working with, American companies versus, having a Philippine staff. And so bridging that, was also interesting. And we got to a certain, I suppose, size also where we really felt, okay, how do we address this? And we actually ended up hiring a full-time trainer. So we have a corporate trainer on staff who works with us works with our team and with all of us to just bridge that gap. What are the, what's the style of communication when you're working with an American company versus an Australian company?
So the trainer focuses on communication skills?
Primarily communications, but also best practices. I mean, we keep them busy. We also internally came up with a system called Vertaccount University, which is just where we store all of our training materials, insights, best practices learned from the teams. And so that trainer is in charge of, educating and bringing up the new staff into all of those materials.
So you've got an onboarding process within your own company for new staff too.
Yes, very important part of the business.
Right.
Because we're a service industry, so it's, again, we leverage the tools, but ultimately it comes down to people.
Exactly. Well, yes, of course.
Right.
Mike, what kind of challenges did you have getting into the business, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I think similar to Bernice, you're going to have any number of issues when you start a business, and the ones that we had might not necessarily be the same as somebody else is going to have starting in a different industry. I think for us, we were kind of being pioneers in Hawaii and hiring staff, being new to Hawaii myself. it was difficult to hire people, so I had to do a lot on my own when we first started, before we were able to sort of one by one hire a quality team. That was a big challenge for us, and hiring a bookkeeper was one of those
Yeah.
challenges that Bernice
trial
was
and
able
error.
to help us solve.
Very good. And now that everything is up and running for both of you, then I guess you don't have any more challenges, right?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure
smooth
we-
sailing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, we're set.
But, you know, we can always hope. I think sometimes the challenges maybe become less of a challenge as you have more experience and you get more comfortable figuring out the different options that you have to get through them. So that's, and that's where I guess you get your battle scars and your experience and you know, and speaking of that, do you have advisors that you work with that kind of are there to help you and coach you along or mentor you in your business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, locally we work with a network of CPAs and CFOs and just other successful business owners. EO is actually a great organization for entrepreneurs like Mike and I because there's a lot of peer-to-peer support. So yeah, I have no problem asking questions when I feel I'm stuck or you know, at least getting a poll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would second the endorsement for EO. So if you're an entrepreneur and you've got a business with $1 million or more in revenue, and you're looking for a network of entrepreneurs to help support you grow, if I can make a plug for EO, it's eonetwork.org. And the Hawaii chapter or any other chapter worldwide, I'm sure would love to meet you.
Very good. And with that being said, if people wanted to find out a little bit more about Vertaccount, how can they do that?
Our website, vertaccount.com. So vertaccount.
All right, and that's on the screen right now.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah, the
great.
Vertaccount.com. So, very good. And then you go to the site, and you can find out a little bit more about the company, about you, and you know, maybe can you find out about the onboarding process too, or?
I'm not. Yeah, there's a little bit of information on that. There's also there's a form to request
Good.
services, and so I've been pleased to see that has become a good lead source for us. We actually people are finding us online and submitting requests for more information or to
Very
work
good.
with us. Yeah.
And Mike, how about you? Do you have a website that people can go to?
Oh, so we have two. We have HawaiianCoolWater.com, so it's Hawaiian cool, COOL, water.com. And then in LA, that business had a website called Puro Rabjan, so Puro, which is the Spanish word for pure.
Pure. Yeah.
Rabjan, which was the name of the founder in 1927, Rabjohn, PuroRabjan.com.
And you're going to keep that website?
There's some debate. We really want to take the Hawaii brand to the mainland, and that is a big part of our idea of expansion. But what we found was that company, because of the history that it has a pretty strong brand in its own right. So for now, we're actually developing both brands. And really, Rabjan's more of a drinking fountain company, and we're more of a high-tech filtration purification company.
So you can have two different product lines within the one company in LA.
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense. And is that your plan? You're going to continue to expand on the mainland or in California?
Yeah, I mean, and in the other direction, I'd like to see us open an office in Japan and in mainland China. There's a lot of
We're
demand for
drinking clean drinking waters.
right, and especially from Hawaii and to expand in that direction as well. So I think there's really an opportunity for us in Hawaii, and this is our home. We're starting a family here. We have our first child arriving pretty soon.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
thanks very much. But I think Hawaii presents a lot of great opportunity because of its geographic location to expand to Asia as well as to the mainland U.S.
Where is the equipment manufactured at? Do you have to order it from the mainland, they ship it in, or can you construct it here? Or?
So we actually do a lot of the assembly and construction here for the purification equipment. The dispensers themselves we get from different OEMs.
Right, and so the shipping costs are large, or is that?
Oh yeah, freight. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows
Yeah.
doing business.
No escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you probably know, I'm on the National Board of Directors for the Small Business Administration, and we're looking at regulatory fairness issues and one of the topics that's coming up for discussion here very soon, hopefully next year, early next year, is going to be the Jones Act, which is
Right.
predominantly the reason why shipping costs are so high here in Hawaii. So I don't know if relief is going to be in our lifetimes, or maybe not my lifetime, but hopefully in yours. But whatever we can do to help control the costs and bring it down, that allow us to be more competitive. And I would imagine if you're going to expand into the Chinese marketplace, they have some manufacturing plants over there that might be able to put some things together and keep the costs local in China, right? I mean, is that an option?
However, and this is based on very limited research, but from what I understand, if we were to make things in Hawaii and in the US, we'd be able to command a higher price in China, that the mainland Chinese, in many respects, would rather purchase things that come from outside of China. They're manufactured outside of China. So manufacturing locally here in Hawaii and perhaps on the mainland in the US.
Would allow a premium.
Right.
Very good.
We would be bringing them something from here.
That could be a good strategy. And I would imagine Japan would have that same type of perception too.
That's limited research. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But that right now, that's the strategic plan we're operating
But
under.
it's my understanding that there's a lot of places outside Hawaii that all you got to do is put the name Hawaii on it, and they're willing to pay a premium. That's pretty much a global, I think, attitude.
Hopefully, it's
Right.
actually made in Hawaii, though.
Right. Or designed in Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah.
I think designed in Cupertino.
Right.
Well, we're a few minutes from wrapping up. It's been a very interesting conversation, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there any final words of advice that you could offer to the audience for those that are thinking about maybe starting a business or maybe taking a business to the next level? I mean, what type of advice would you offer, Bernice?
Well, if I was starting a business today, I would definitely look for partners and providers who can do all of the non-core business functions. So accounting, payroll, HR. I mean, if that's not your core business, then I would find the right partners for that. Because that just empowers you to go and take off and focus on what you need to do to grow your business. Because there's so much, that a business owner has to worry about. We wear many hats, and I think if I were to do it again today, I really would find the right partners.
Well, and like I mentioned earlier, hiring your first employee tends to complicate a lot of things. And it's not just the management of the employee and keeping them motivated and trained, but also all the compliance issues and doing the payroll and all the payroll filing and all the HR laws and regulations that insurance.
Right.
All of that tends to get very complicated.
Right.
And for somebody who's never done it before, there's a steep learning curve. Did you have to go through that, Mike?
Well, so we actually, we used a PEO. So ProService is a great example of a company that, really helps, I think, a lot of small businesses deal with all of those regulations and compliance issues. And they do such a great job.
Simplifies it a lot.
It really simplifies things a lot when you're small and you're trying to deal with all of those HR issues, because it would be overwhelming.
Well, and you take the combination of the HR and the bookkeeping, the accounting and the tax and all these different things. I mean, if your passion is to sell a product or a service, and you're spending 50 or 60% of your time doing all this other back office, that can be pretty frustrating, and you may not be that good at it.
I mean, that's actually how I started, I got into this business. Was at one point, I started a business here in Hawaii where I was importing products, from Asia. And I was spending an inordinate amount of time doing my bookkeeping, and I'd have these containers come in, so the purchase orders and the sales orders were very long, and I was spending a lot of time doing that. And I realized, wait a minute, when I had my internet company in the Philippines, we had a staff of 7 in our accounting team. They would bang this out in 30 minutes. It's taking me, 2 hours. My time is better spent,
So
marketing my product. That's when the light went. I said, I'm sure I'm not the only one with this problem. So.
Now, we've got about 30 seconds left. Mike, was there any final words or thoughts of advice, for our audience?
No.
No. Well, just try it. Keep the right attitude. Don't let failure slow you down. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there was a couple little failures or bumps in the road that you experienced, and you just had to plow right through them.
I think, from that perspective, it is, you are definitely going to, experience. It's difficult for everybody, and I think when you're starting a business, I think a lot of people give up right before they're about to succeed. and they don't realize that by pushing through.
Right.
They're almost
Soldiership
there.
through, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very good. I appreciate very much you both being on the show today. This is Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. We have a great studio staff here. Thank you very much for all the support. We're broadcasting live every Thursday at 2 o'clock, so 2 to 3. We had a good time today, and we'll have a great one next week. We're going to have Kaloa rum on the show, and we might even have some samples. So we'll be able to share that with you. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.